Hi, 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 and hey, hey, and welcome to another edition of Talk More Talk. We're doing kind of an extra show here because we have a special guest with us, as we often do, who witnessed one of the three Paul McCartney shows in New York City last week at the Bowery Ballroom. But before we do that, let me welcome, of course, Kid O'Toole, who you know from Toppermost of the Poppermost, her other podcast, and also having written a number of books, including uh, what was his
No,
songs we were singing. This is the first time I messed that up.
I know.
Songs we were singing guided tours through the Beatles' lesser known songs, and also Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know for the King of Pop. And also we have with us Joe Mayo, of course, from the very popular Mean Mr. Mayo
Seinfeld.
And
YouTube.
from Seinfeld, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, Joe Mayo.
I was waiting for
Ken
Tom to do that.
Michaels, you know me for Every Little Thing, the radio show, being on this show, and things we said today, and my YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio. And we bring back Tom Frangione. I gotta say Frangione from now
You
on.
must. You must.
If you want to know why, you got to go back to my channel because he'll explain.
Yeah. You'll hear the whole story, the whole
Yeah.
sordid
Uh-oh.
tale. The
Uh-oh.
whole sordid tale.
But
Yes.
But if it's the tail, I think it is. It's okay. You don't mind
Yeah.
too much.
I could tell it again. Whatever.
so now
But
that gives me liberty to say Chuck Mangione,
that's
right?
true. Or
Because
if we start talking about that guy that, is in prison there in New York for shooting the CEO or whatever, we same thing.
okay,
Yeah.
but once a Beatle has called you something, that is your name for life
As I
anyway.
was saying, call me
This
what
is
you
true.
want.
This is
Well,
true.
you want to know all the details? Check out on my channel when Tom
Yeah.
was on when we talked about Ringo's performances at the Ryman. Okay.
Yeah.
But as I said, Tom is here to talk about his experience going to one of the three shows that Paul did at the Bowery Ballroom. And he was at the last show, which was on Friday night. And so, first of all, have you come back to Earth yet?
No, I got to tell you, it's been really. I don't even know how to explain it. Okay, I mean, I've been to a small Paul show before. I was fortunate enough; it was actually 10 years to the day when he did the Valentine's Day show in 2015 in anticipation of the SNL 40th anniversary show.
Right.
But the shows this week, there was so much buzz, and the listeners who are checking in from the greater New York area will resonate with this really, really well. By the time they announced them and you heard about it, tickets were gone.
Right.
Um, the room was, loaded with, you can imagine, a lot of people in town for Saturday Night Live. So the upper level, it's an old style ballroom with a balcony, and the
Hmm.
balcony was reserved. That was Nancy and family and friends and VIPs and things like that. So it was really just the downstairs, and it's a very, very small venue, top to bottom, including the upstairs. I understand is 575 people. So that's not a lot.
And
I
for
mean,
those of us who do not live in New York, where is it
well,
approximately?
it's in Lower Manhattan, south of Houston Street. Uh, well, let me give you, boy, I'm just used to New Jersey and telling you what exit it's on. But if you're familiar at all with Manhattan, it's southern Manhattan, below Houston Street, and very near the Holland Tunnel, which will get you back into New Jersey. Very near what I call the nexus of the universe, First Avenue and First Street in Manhattan.
Hmm.
First and First. So it's right down there. It's an area called the Bowery, and hence the Bowery Ballroom. And, even if by some minor miracle they were to do a show there where all the tickets were made public, 575, you can imagine that's going to go pretty quick, particularly when they did it very old school. Paul has told the story many times about Wings' first tour, right? Oh, 50p at the door, and you pay and you go in, and then we split up the coins. Well, they did that 10 years ago, the show for the Valentine's show for 2015. It was the same thing. You had to go to, a reception area, and it was $20 cash on the barrelhead, no Ticketmaster fees and no, none of that nonsense. And they gave you a wristband and said, now go down the street and go to Irving Plaza and go to the show. Here you had to show up. I know people camped out overnight, came in at 4 a.m, whatever it was, on the hope that they would announce a second show.
Okay.
Now, they did the first show on, make sure I get the dates right, on Tuesday, and the tickets were gone in nothing flat. Whatever it was, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. By the time word got out, whatever was made available to the public was gone. Okay. And a lot of people hung around figuring maybe there'll be a drop later. Maybe tickets got held back for VIPs, who were supposed to come from Saturday Night Live, and they would get released if they don't show or whatever. I don't know how many people got in. By all accounts, it was very few. Now, what happened, and God bless the Beatle fan community, they do a lot of detective work, and there were people that kind of hung around and just like kind of peeked through the doors at the end, and they said they're not breaking down the stage. Guess what? That means they may do a second, right? And sure enough, the next morning, the exact same script, tickets went on sale, gone in nothing flat, but there was a show the second night. Same situation, nothing got broken down at the end of the night. And what it turned out to be, there were acts booked at the Bowery Ballroom for Wednesday and Thursday that they moved actually to Irving Plaza. It's a sister venue and just relocated it very nearby. So people kind of knew those nights were being taken care of. But Friday night was what was called something like Artists' Choice or Artists' Hold, meaning we'll hold the room for you if you need it. And well, guess what? Everybody's in town. Everybody needs rehearsal space. There was that other big concert Friday in New York, the SNL 50 concert that streamed. So who knew what was going on?
Right.
And, people, cast their lot and said, well, they did it Tuesday. They did it Wednesday. Will they do it Thursday? And sure enough, Thursday morning, they announced show number 3, but broke stride because the tickets were for the next night. Now, the first blurb I saw, as soon as somebody texted me, they've added a third show. I went onto the website, and whichever site I went to said, a third show has been added for tonight, February 13th. I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I heard. So it was just somebody trying, somebody beating it to the punch, but it was obviously wrong. The show was held on Friday, the 14th, but the tickets were, whatever public tickets were going out, did go out on Thursday. So that was all set and done. Show number 3 arrives on Friday. I think that was the only day of the week it didn't rain or snow. So getting out there wasn't as bad as it could have been, as it was for, I know a lot of people brave the elements just to get tickets and wait in line. Because remember, it was general admission after that. So even if you were fortunate enough to get a ticket, and again, it's not that big. If you were at the back of the room in the corner, you were, what were you, 90 feet from the stage or something like that. You transport that ticket into Madison Square Garden, you'd say, gee, it's one of the best seats in the house, right? So that was kind of the setup for that. And of course, information, you want to hear, what did he do? Club shows, he'll do some off the wall stuff and, maybe a rarity or two, or and who knows, with everybody in town, could there have been a guest? Yeah, sure could have happened, right? So trying to get the information was a little bit tough to get it on the fly because no cell phones permitted. They had that Yonder system. I don't know if any of you have dealt with that. It's a little pouch that you put your cell phone in and they seal it. It's kind of like that stuff that they used to prevent shoplifting in the bigger stores. And you have to punch it out, and they do that on your way outside the venue, right? So you hold your phone. You don't have to leave it with anybody. But or remember, when CDs used to come in those big, tall plastic things,
Yep.
and they had the little key, that fit, that unlocked it, and it's similar to that. But you are without your phone from the time you walk in till the time you leave. So there were no, I mean, I've seen nothing on YouTube that was live from the shows. Whether any recordings will sneak out, who knows? But we shall see. I'm hoping, I would cut right to the quick. I hope he does some sort of a CD or home video or stream release, with highlights from the shows or, anything like that, because he did mix the songs up quite a bit over the course of the 3 nights, which is very uncharacteristic for him. The 3 shows, he did 22, 23, and 25 songs. So it had a core set list of about 15 that he did each night. Certainly Let It Be and Hey Jude and Now and Then even. He alternated opening cuts. So some songs he did 2 nights out of the 3. And certain songs were unique to the night, to that night. They were only done once. So it mixed it up nicely and, kept it surprising. And, particularly the first half of the show when he was doing wings cuts and solo cuts and things that, he just doesn't always do. Now there were none, as best I could tell, that he had never played live before,
Right,
but a
right.
lot of these things were typically things that he might play in a sound check. So a song like I Want to Be Your Man. Okay, he's
Mm.
put that on a live album, but it's from a soundtrack. And we know, or excuse me, from a sound check. And we know he's done that in sound checks along the way. A couple that, just he's done once or twice on tour, like Flaming Pie. The night we were there, we got treated to Temporary Secretary, which live is just fantastic. I
Uh,
mean, I like the record to begin with, but live, it's not as steeped in the techno. I mean, Wix is doing his thing, but you're getting, Brian Ray is playing a big jumbo acoustic guitar during the thing. It was really, really cool.
One of
Couple,
the reviews that I read said that I think it was the first show, somebody in the audience requested temporary
yeah,
secretary.
yeah. Actually, the review I read of the first night, Rob Sheffield
Yeah.
Mhm.
in Rolling Stone, pointed out some of the rarities, and what kind of gave us a good warm and fuzzy over at the Beatles channel was Paul mentioned the channel from the stage, saying, there's always these punters out there who want to go deep and hear these off the wall things. And he told a story about hearing a song on the Beatles channel that he didn't remember. Okay. And he said, I'm looking at my notes here. He said, I made the driver turn it up, and it was a song called Sweet, Sweet Memories. Obviously, present company here is going to know where that's from. But he told the driver, I don't remember it at all. He says, and then the DJ said, it's a 1993 outtake from Off the Ground. It was a B-side to a single. Do they even have B-sides on CD singles? And it sounded a little bit, well, kind of familiar. So went over to the archive. One of the shows that I do on Sirius XM is called Way Beyond Compare, and it's just rarities. And we had just played it recently, and that's pretty much the story I told. So it was kind of cool. And I filed that one under You Never Know Who May Be Listening to You. So we all got a good chuckle out of that at the Beatles channel, and we'd love to get a hold of that. I think they're going to ask Paul's office, can we get just the audio of him talking about that from the stage, and we could use that in some sort of a promo or something like that. So that would be a lot of fun. Um,
I
you
don't know
know,
if you remember, Tom, but there was when Pure McCartney, when Paul was
hmm
curating that,
hmm
he had said in one of his interviews that he was going through his the albums that he made, and there's a song Arrow Through Me, and he couldn't remember how it went.
yeah. Hmm. No, I mean, look, the guy has written so many songs.
I
I
know.
mean, just trying to remember, never mind what year or, titles, melodies. It was an outtake from, what was it, from Back to the Egg or from London Town? Gee, I can't remember. It's, I got to cut him a little bit of slack on something like that. I mean, the guy's written hundreds and hundreds of songs, but it's kind of cool to hear him say that, like, well, one, that he liked it, that he liked the song, that it sounded good. Well, yeah, Paul, we'll let you in on a little secret. It does sound good.
Yeah.
We all love that song, Sweet, Sweet Memories. So hearing that story that kind of got us all juiced. I mean, I was pretty much resigned to, look, this is going to be a tough ticket to get in any event. The first couple nights, we put in calls, couldn't get anything. There's not a chance unless, I went into the phone booth put on my cape, broke a date with Lois Lane, and then spin the earth around to go, to set the clocks back, that I could get from where I live in New Jersey to the Bowery Ballroom in 8 seconds to try and buy a ticket, right? So I was pretty much thinking, well, this one I'll have to live vicariously through some of my friends who were lucky enough to get tickets. They did the camping out thing and the detective work and did all the legwork and got very, very lucky and were fortunate to get tickets for night two, which was kind of cool.
Hmm. Now you were just saying that there's a balcony there. So that was the only area where there were seats?
They had like little tables at the back or something, but most people were leaning. There's like a railing that
Yeah.
it's a kind of a horseshoe. I don't think there was any assigned seating. But we kept an eye. We saw people that you knew would be there. You knew Nancy would be there, and up she
Okay.
went. Um, had a nice chat with Steve Holly
Hmm.
from Wings. He was there Friday night, and I said, "This is kind of." I'm thinking, how obtuse is this? I'm at a McCartney show talking to one of the guys from Wings. I mean, like I've met Steve and know him for many years through the fest, but at a McCartney show, it's just little
Surreal.
bit out there,
Mm.
and then of course there were the chants where you had to get there. Doors opened at 5. The shows were set for 6:30. So people are parading in, and this chant broke out, LD, LD, LD. It was Larry David came in.
Hmm.
Um, um, and I'm a huge Seinfeld and Curb fan, so I got kind of caught up in that too, but yeah, he was there. And then people that you happen to spot. I spotted a couple of guys from Billy Joel's band there. That they just happened to be there. So it's a pretty cool night, for sure. And I'm sure there were many, many more VIPs that I didn't see who were upstairs. I mean, just
Hmm.
how it goes.
How close were you to Paul?
That's what I was
Very
going to ask.
close. We got in, got to the front, and there were, maybe I'm going to say 1.5 rows of people that had kind of, went right to the front, right to the barricade, at the front of the stage. I was there with 3 other people. We went, I said, come, we'll go this side and don't go to the middle, go to the far right. And they're like, why? And I said, that's where the piano is. Look, that big psychedelic piano. I said, he's going to be singing at center stage. You can see that from anywhere. But the piano, we were only like 2 bodies deep from the piano. And just the way the railings went, there was really nothing in between me and him. It just kind of like it kind of fans out a little bit. So it was a little bit almost like not a side view, but I was at the far end of the piano.
Hmm.
Call it even with stage left, right where the piano was literally right up against the edge of the stage. So when he was at the piano, 15 to 20 feet away from him. I mean, looking at him straight on with nothing in between. And that for me, I wrote a review that I know Bill King sent it around to the Beatle fan community. And Joe Johnson, I sent it to him for the Beatle brunch community. And I'll have an expanded edition in the Beatle fan print issue. There's one I think
Great.
that's happening right now. It won't be in that. It'll be in the next issue. It literally missed, the deadline by a day. I mean, that's just how it went.
Hmm.
But that set, he did 2 piano sets. The early one with My Valentine, and of course, look, it's Valentine's Day. You know, you knew you
Yeah.
were getting that one, right? That's in the early set he did that, and 1985. Kind of toward the beginning of the show, and toward the end, this was really, to me, the best set of the night. He told a story about John and said, this is where John chose to live. He loved this city. And when I do this song, I always think about John. And he played Now and Then. Now, I know he played that on the recent stops on the Got Back tour, but these were the first times he'd played them in America in concert. and certainly the first time I ever saw him play it. So that was an
Mm.
absolute highlight. And then it was Lady Madonna, but then Let It Be and Hey Jude, which are, I mean, let's face it, those are staples of his set. Being that close, like literally sitting at the end of the piano, it was something beyond sublime. It was like it lifted the entire room. In the review, I don't want to give away everything here, but I'm looking at my draft of it. I said I'll never listen to this lyric the same way again. When they came out of the solo and Let It Be, and he sang, "When the night is cloudy, there's still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be." Look at this. The hair standing up on my arms as I'm repeating a story. Okay, that because I remember how I felt at that moment. It literally lifted the room. It like elevated the room. It was something I had never felt, with any, and I've been close before, but it resonated in just such an incredible way. And of course, Hey Jude, I mean, that's my favorite song by anybody, anytime, anywhere. So sitting that close, yes, I've heard him do it in concert bunch of times, but being that close when it's that voice doing that song, it just checked off another box. It really did. It was really fantastic.
Okay. I'm going to let Joe and Kit ask a few questions, but I just want to ask one thing because I had heard our friend Beatley Tone said this because he saw
Okay.
Paul in England, but when he did Lady Madonna,
Mm-hmm.
he actually played the bass to it. He didn't play it on the piano.
Not at the Bowery.
Okay, that might have been one time only.
Could have been. No, this was a 4-song piano set for sure.
Okay, all right. Joe, you have any questions?
Yeah. Did you see Hunts Hall or Leo Gorcey there at the Bowery?
Yeah. Yeah. The Bowery boys. Let me tell you. No, the answer to that is no, but I was looking for.
All righty. You could see the cap was Satch. You'd see that.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I want to say first that you mentioned before about we haven't seen anything yet from the show out there leaked out or anything. There is an audio of
Yeah,
of the second show
of the night too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I know so far, and I've heard that there's been different versions, and the audio is getting better as they better and better. That's all I know about it.
Yeah, well,
But
there is a way, and I mean, don't try this at home, kids. We don't advocate for this, but I know on the ticket holder line, they sealed up the phone and in you went. I don't know what was going on the ticket holder line, but I know on we had bracelets or passes. They took our phone, but we had a young lady in our crowd, and I said, "Did they go through your purse on the way?" And she's like, "No, they know you're." I said, "That was the secret. Bring the second phone and put it in the purse. That was the." But file that under maybe next time. I don't know.
right, gotcha. I mean, a lot of the questions were already answered that I had here, but I was it's just, I know the answer to this one before I ask you, but I'll ask from
Go ahead.
Junior's Farm, which
Uh,
he performed there. Which I love that song.
Hmm.
It's still the edit. I assume.
yeah, somebody has to take his copy of Wingspan away, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
they definitely have to do that.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
When he remembers that song, I
Well,
guess that one he remembers the one from Wingspan.
well, you know what? Maybe when we talk about Saturday Night Live, we'll talk about lyric recalling in a minute, but we'll save that for later.
And you do hear Junior's Farm quite a bit in its entirety on Sirius XM, the Beatles channel.
Yeah, we typically play the full one. I mean, we have both. I mean, we play every version that's released of anything. But I know we lean toward the full one for that reason.
Hmm.
I mean, ditto, the same thing with a little luck. We're typically playing the full 5.5-minute version rather than the 3.5-minute DJ
Right.
edit, which has made it onto a number of the the collections. I think that's the one they used for Pure McCartney. Is they used the DJ edit of that one. Pretty sure.
Mm.
So
Well, I mean, and then I just had some of the songs listed. I mean, we talked about some of them. There weren't any real surprises other than
well,
Temporary Secretary, which you know, I've heard him do that at MetLife. I think it was
yeah,
one
some
time.
years ago he did
Yeah,
it there. But
and I
there
love
were
that song. But I didn't. I did personally the one time I heard it there. I didn't think it translated as well live.
yeah.
Personally,
Well, I Want to Be Your Man, I gotta say, that's kind of a surprise. Again, we have a live version of him doing it on the Paul is Live album.
Mhm.
But again, it's a sound check version. It's not one that that's part of the regular set. And I have to say this, with in all candor, I have to say that Temporary Secretary was one of the best received songs of the night. I
yeah.
mean, look, he comes out, you get the big crashing chord into Hard Day's Night. The place is going banana crackers. They're just going crazy, right? It's Paul. Um, but and he does Junior's Farm, and he says, well, you know, might play a couple of different deep cuts, and there are certain connoisseurs who like to play, and I'm tell the Beatle Channel story, tell it again, tell it again. um, but he didn't. But he says, so this one's for all you connoisseurs out there. And they broke into Temporary Secretary, which and it blew the roof off the place. People loved it. And everybody in the house knew it,
They
which
know it.
was great.
Wow.
Unlike, I dare say, Joe, I was at the MetLife show when he played that. A full half of that house didn't know that song,
Hmm.
Right, yeah, sure.
you know?
And those are
Um,
the ones all up front.
yeah, but this,
You know?
the energy packed into that small room, and pound for pound, it was people that knew his catalog.
Well, that worked.
Okay.
That
And
worked
I,
out.
I got news for you. He couldn't have gone deep enough that night. Okay. He really couldn't
Yeah.
have. People, I mean, like I've heard that tape that you were talking about. Did my heart good? Somebody you could hear somebody yell out, ballroom dancing, because he's talking about, well, we used to play in a ballroom, and here we are in a ballroom. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I like playing in a ballroom and a ballroom and a ballroom and a ballroom. And somebody yells out ballroom. But that seemed to be lost on him.
We heard somebody yell out, "Flying to my home."
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
heard
was
this.
that was the thing that sparked the quote the Beatle Channel blurb from the stage, that somebody had requested "Flying to My Home." I mean, I'm telling you now, based on what and people were yelling out for all kinds of things,
Hmm.
but when he played Temporary Secretary, the place went bananas. They really did.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
But before I pass it over to Kit, I just want to say you talked about I want to be your man, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
That kind of works into a little story about my chance to get up close to Paul was in
Mhm.
1992, where I won the only time in my life radio tickets to the
Mm.
up close at the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Oh, well,
And
as it
I was one of the privileged that got up to the stage about 6, 7 feet away. I'm more by Robbie McIntosh. Back then, it's a long time ago. I was 30 years old, a lot thinner. I'm dressed all in black and long hair, so I can say that head's my head.
yeah.
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he did. I'm mentioning it is because he did. I want to be your man there, but it was a different version of it. It
Yeah.
was like he did that with Can't Buy Me Love. He did that kind of like
Yeah.
countryish kind of
Yep.
flair, and
It-
he did I want to be your man there. Of course, that's not out right on a legitimate
No.
recording.
Yeah, but again, these are like things that he does at not on tour, right? Yeah, I remember I went to the Apollo show a few years back. This is even before there was a Beatles channel. When it was a Sirius XM event, like for listeners, and I happened to get a ticket. And he played One After 909. He never does that on tour, but he's played it at did it at maybe some of the Egypt Station gigs, either at Abbey Road or in Grand Central, or at one of those little pop-up shows in England. They're not ones that he does on tour for sure.
Mhm.
he
I
did-
heard Alligator at a sound
Mm.
check,
Mm.
which was
Yeah.
thrilling to me because I loved the album
Well, like I
new.
say, he couldn't have gone deep enough for the crowd that was there on
Yeah.
Friday. Just
That's
judging
right.
on the reaction that he got to Temporary Secretary.
Hey, remember the big surprise at the Apollo of what he did?
Oh yeah, well, Hitchhike
Yeah.
and Wonderful Christmas Time. I mean, that was. I know he does Wonderful Christmas Time when he plays London at Christmas time,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, I go back to the first time I saw Paul in '89. It was in December. Why wouldn't he play Wonderful Christmas Time? Answer, because he didn't. So it was. I think that's the only time he's ever played that in concert here in America.
Yeah.
Was at the Apollo. I mean, I know he did it on Saturday Night Live
Yeah.
that year as well, but I mean that was a rarity. And of course, you know, at the Apollo when he did the Marvin Gaye song, he did Hitchhike. That was pretty great.
Oh, I wish he'd bring that back because the
Yeah.
band was really
Sure.
good on that.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Kit?
Yeah. Before I get to, because I wanted to ask you a bit about the audience, but I noticed one of the other songs he played that night was Every Night.
Yeah, and that one I think was an audible. Now he played it Wednesday night as part of the set list. And people are, you know, he went out there with the acoustic and he's ready to do, you know, I've Just Seen a Face in Blackbird. And because we were right against the railing there, you know, they had all kinds of, you know, roadies and techs, and there were set lists all over the place, but it's pitch black. You could only see it like if somebody was walking by and had their flashlight on. And I would try and, like, you know, just like look, but there wasn't 3 songs set up in the acoustic set. And you know, somebody yelled out Every Night, and he actually did, like, he turned to the band and said, "Do you want to do Every Night? Like, you know, should we do that again?" I think that was an audible. If anybody walked out with a set list that night, please let us know if that was on the set list. But I think that one may have been an audible.
Interesting.
And what was kind of funny, one of the guys I was with, one of our producers, Carl, he's like, "Holy crap, Every Night. When's the last time he played this?" I'm like, "Wednesday." You know? You know,
But yeah, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, he hasn't played that in some time. I mean, of course, in the Unplugged show and
Sure.
others, but yeah, what a treat to see that there.
Yeah, and Every Night had a couple of not the song, but each of the nights that he played there had something a little bit different. Like, you know, one night he did Getting Better. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not oh, I mean, he's done it live before for sure. You know,
Flaming
so
Pie.
there was a little something for everybody for sure.
Yeah,
He did
absolutely.
Flaming Pie one night.
Yeah, he did Flaming Pie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So yeah, the crowd. Now you've talked a bit about how Temporary Secretary got such a big reaction, which is fantastic. Were there other songs that particularly, really got the crowd going?
Believe it or not, another one of the best received of the night was Blackbird. And you know, that little strategy I mentioned before about going, you know, stage left, house right, that works out real well when Paul's playing guitar because you get to see the whole fretboard. If you're on stage right, you would see the back of the neck. You would see, you know, just because he's left-handed. I could watch him play that all night. I mean, the guitar technique in it is just brilliant. I love when he does it, even, you know, in a stadium, and he'll tell the story, not just the one about, you know, having written it for the civil rights back in the late '60s, but he'll say, you know, "Oh, you know, this guy, you know, came up to me at a party, said, 'Oh, my son is learning to play guitar, and he learned how to play Blackbird.'" And he says, I have to tell everybody that tells me that, well, you're all doing it wrong. And then I swear to God, the first time he told that story that I heard him tell it anyway, was at probably MetLife. It was in a stadium. So I'm watching it on the screen more than, you know, up close.
Right.
And he tells the story and everybody gets a chuckle. And I watched him play it that closely. And I said, he's right. I've been playing it wrong for 30 years. I haven't been doing it right. But Blackbird was a big, big win. Also, believe it or not, something when he broke out the ukulele. As soon as he took the ukulele out, people went crazy. And again, it was Valentine's Day, so it's a solid pick to play for that. Now and Then was a big, big winner. But it was so interesting, Kit, because a song that he played at each of the 3 shows, "Come On to Me," which would be, you know, I guess the second most recent song in the set, which is not normally like in a stadium or in Madison Square Garden is not going to be one of the, the powerhouse numbers. Everybody was bopping and up and down to it. There certainly was no beer run. Okay. There was no bathroom break in this set for sure. And that, I
Wonderful.
mean, it owed, yeah, I mean, let's face it, it
Yeah.
owes to the songs that he picked, but also you had a very captive and very hardcore audience there.
Yeah, and that makes a
Oh,
tremendous difference. I mean,
huge, just absolutely huge.
yeah, that's wonderful. Now, in terms of ages, did you see? And of course, I'm not talking about the VIPs. I'm talking about just
Yeah.
the general crowd. Was
Um, I'm gonna say this down in the on the floor level, not like again going to MetLife Stadium or the Garden, not a lot of kids, and by kids I mean like I'm older than dirt. Everybody's a kid, right? um, you go to a show and you'll see maybe three generations of a family:
right.
grandparent, parent, and child. I didn't see, I don't think anybody, that I would say couldn't have gotten into the Bowery Ballroom where they have a liquor license anyway.
Yeah.
They were allowing them, but it was, I would say, mostly 30 to 50, maybe 30 to 60, right in there. There were a lot of, I'm going to call, to me, somebody in their 30s is young, right? They're young enough to be my
Yeah.
son, or daughter. They're young.
Yeah.
They may have been in the area when tickets went on sale. Maybe they live in the area in that section of Manhattan. I don't know, but it wasn't like the three generation thing. I'm sure there were some people there, older than that broke the 60 barrier for sure,
Sure.
or into the 70s. Let's make it plural. But didn't see a whole lot of kids there.
Hmm.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I ask is that I had heard this rumor that one of the nights that there were some younger people who got in the front and were were
Well,
kind
the
of
pictures I saw,
yeah.
the only pictures really that I've seen are official MJ Kim, official sanctioned
Mhm.
photos. And a lot of the up front, yeah, seem to be a lot of young and a lot of females up front. And we've seen that in the videos sometimes, like I remember in the Space Within Us DVD that
Yeah.
seemed to be, pretty prominent for some of the filming. And so, well, look, if that means they were filming it and it's going to come out, I'm in. Okay, that'd be great.
I
Yep.
heard that happened the second night,
Mhm.
and that's the first time that I'd ever heard the term
Yeah.
pitting or something
Well,
like
it
that.
really wasn't a pit. I mean,
Mhm.
and in fact, from the edge of the stage to where the front barricade was, literally, when a roadie would have to go in between it, he'd have to turn sideways and like walk sideways. It wasn't like a 15-foot,
Right.
gap between the stage and the crowd itself. So if you were, quote, front row, you were front row.
Wow.
It's the only way to see a show. I mean, many people I'm sure will agree who had the privilege of being close up in an intimate setting like that. You get so spoiled. And I was like to a few shows like that. I'm a Joan Jett fanatic, and in the '80s, I got right up to the stage, leaning on the stage,
Mm.
banging on the stage.
Mhm.
Even a front row seat after that is
Well,
still
Mhm.
I leaned on the stage once for a McCartney appearance, and I have to tell you, it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and I'll tell you why. This was at the Roseland Ballroom, another ballroom, right? For one of the when he did Buddy Holly Week in New York with the Crickets and Nancy Griffith and everything. Now the stage there is somewhat higher than the Bowery. Literally, like I was leaning on the stage like this. I was eye to eye with his feet. I mean, I had to like literally like go all the way back to look up to see that he was singing. It was too close.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, no complaints, right? But I'm just saying, this was a little
Yeah.
bit different.
And I read this. I remember this is a Joan Jett thing. And I remember the set list is there, and you're
Yeah.
taped to the floor, and you're reading the
Yeah.
set list too. So
Now,
Yeah.
did you yell "nice shoes, Paul"?
Yeah, I
During
mean, like,
the
what were you gonna say? I
Yeah.
mean, it was just too close.
Yeah.
In this case, like I say, it was literally, when he was at the piano, a 15-foot unobstructed shot right at him, which was just, I say, it was transcendental at points when he was sitting at the piano. It really was.
Wow. Wow.
I have
All
to ask the obvious question
Mm.
is how was his voice?
He sounded great. Now, we know the past few tours, the back-to-back night thing has not served him well.
Hmm.
That the resting the voice has been important. Now, again, outside of a very low fidelity tape that's leaked out on the second show, I don't know how he sounded at the first two. The night off did him very well. He sounded great. Now, I know that could lead us into a conversation about last night on Saturday Night Live. I got to tell you, what I think threw him off and got his voice, like, shook him a little? Did you notice that he came this little teeny tiny bit close to messing up the words? Go listen to your tape and watch it. He comes out of the first verse, and I will sing a lullaby, and he goes, "Boy, golden slumbers." He was going into "Boy, you can carry that weight." Go listen to it, and
right.
that, I think, threw him off.
Mhm.
And it should, right? You're playing in front of millions and millions and millions of people, and it's a song. He wrote it. I mean, and there ain't that many words in the song, but anything can happen, and it did. Okay, and it happened throughout the Bowery shows, right? You can hear it on that tape for the second night when he did getting better. It's like, wait a minute, it doesn't start down here. He's playing, in one register, and he goes, stop playing that. That's not how it goes. And he restarted the song. Um, it happens. I think he recovered pretty well from it. He didn't, when I listened back to it, it didn't sound bad. It's not his best work last night, but he recovered real nicely from it, I thought.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think,
go check out the vocal flub. That's really, I think, what kind of set the mood for that.
Hmm.
but just getting back to the Bowery Ballroom show,
Yeah.
was it a situation where you could always hear his voice isolated from the rest? Because when you see him in a big show in a stadium, there's all this sound hitting at you, and you've got the other members harmonizing with him, and
Well,
sometimes you can't really separate Paul from everybody else.
actually, you could hear him, but to your point, Ken, about when they're singing harmonies, well, that's how the songs go.
Yeah.
But in certain songs, Abe is doubling his voice, not singing harmony. You could actually hear, wow, that's two people singing. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was that clear. I mean, there was nowhere for the sound to go,
Right.
right? It's too small a room. The sound couldn't go anywhere. And you could actually hear and see, certainly, I mean, they don't make a secret of it. Abe is, if they're singing A Hard Day's Night, you know, you can see Abe is singing with him.
Right.
I mean, that's just how he does it. But you know what I did like about his voice, and even last night, look, at 84, okay, or 80, 83, the voice isn't what it was when it was
soon
43
to be
or
83.
23.
Let's say.
But what's happened is, what we've heard, when his voice gets strained, it had that, like, kind of gravelly cragginess to it.
Yeah.
There was none of that, and you didn't even have that last night. Last night he struggled with hitting a couple of high notes. That's different than having a craggly, you know, tone to the voice.
Hmm.
Um, I think he sounded great on Friday. He really did.
Hmm. Because like I said, when I've seen him in stadiums, sometimes his voice can be drowned out.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, it could be drowned out just by the people around you.
Yeah.
And it just becomes part of this wall, to coin a phrase, a wall of sound
Uh-huh.
in a football stadium. where frankly it's not just his voice, but a lead guitar might get buried in amongst the bass and drum mix. I mean, it's, football stadiums aren't the best place to see concerts.
Hmm.
I've heard only good things from people that have been there. Either this the second night. Well, you're the only one that I've talked to from the third night, Tom. But people that went to the second, they all said he was in great form. And they used the word perfect at one point,
Yeah.
which I wasn't there. I just know what I saw on Saturday Night Live, and
Yeah,
he was
no,
only
and look, the TV mix is never forgiving, ever.
yeah, no, well,
But
no.
and look, when you're in a ballroom, where there's just enough, containment of the sound, where it's still live, yet still, has some chance to reverberate. That helps. It just does. I mean, I'm not an engineer and I don't understand the science to it, but I know the difference between that and, feeding it right into a board on a
Right.
television, that then pipes through some satellite and comes into your house. But I thought he was in terrific voice. Look, what would I love? Yes, I'd love to sit here and say, boy, it would be great if board tapes leaked out of all 3 nights, unfettered, no one's mixed it, and we get to hear exactly what it sounded like. Then the tape doesn't lie. I'd love that. And again, we'll give out my home address and phone number and email address at the end if anybody, happen to get real lucky and stumble into that. But no, he was in terrific form. He was in great spirits, funny, talkative between the songs. Yes, some of the songs were the stories were the ones we've heard. Mother Mary, Blackbird. Yes, we've heard them. But you know what? Yeah. What else was I going to be doing Friday night besides
Yeah,
listening
right.
to that, right? That still beat the heck out of whatever I was going to be doing otherwise.
Right, exactly.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the SNL show,
Okay.
specifically Paul's performance. I know you were just talking about it, but I've heard it been said, and I think it's probably true. There are some performers, Paul McCartney's one of them, Paul Simon's another one of those, where you go to see them in concert, they're kind of shaky in the very beginning, but as the night goes on, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. I think that Paul McCartney is very much that way, and sometimes he suffers because when he's on a TV show and he's just got to do one song, it's not like he's had a sound check where he's rehearsed for
Yeah.
2 minutes and he's warmed up. He's got to go in cold, although I'm sure there was a rehearsal for
Oh,
that.
I'm
Yeah, there
sure. Yeah.
had to be.
But still, when it's one song and that's it,
Yeah.
right in, that's
That's
when,
possible.
because when he did Maybe I'm Amazed,
Yeah.
on SNL 10 years ago,
Yeah.
um, that was one of his worst performances. And
Yeah.
you'll go and see him in concert and he can sound great. I mean,
Yeah.
for a full concert.
Yeah.
Do you think that Paul is very much that way, or a lot of artists are that way?
I hadn't thought about that, but I could see where, just looking at this. All right, so what's a normal McCartney show? 3 dozen songs. He did 2 dozen songs. It was 2/3 of a show.
Right.
Certainly, that back end when he's running through, it's all Beatles at the end. Obla di obla da, Drive My Car, Lady Madonna, Let It Be, Hey Jude, the Abbey Road medley. You're just Get Back. It's one after the next. He was nailing it. I mean, he was just spot on. And maybe to your point, Ken, I was using the example. I think there's something to this. I was using the example before about A Hard Day's Night. It's the first song. He's got
Mhm.
somebody doubling him. Maybe
Yeah.
that's for a reason. I
Yeah.
mean, so I think that gives a lot of credence to your, thought there.
I was wondering, being that he was on so late, also,
Yeah.
late at
Yeah,
night.
yeah, he's not
midnight.
used to this 11:30 at night
Yeah,
thing.
and
He
he's
was
an
doing these
older
shows
guy
at
now.
6:30 at night. By the
Yeah.
way, loving that. Okay.
Yeah.
Loving
Can we
that.
keep that?
I was
Right.
I was home 9:30. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold it.
So
Oh.
there's that too. But my feeling was that, I mean, he seemed a little tired, which he has a right to be. He
Yeah.
seemed a little, to me, on Saturday Night Live, a little tired. Um, I didn't think the passion was there as it usually
Yeah.
is, or
Well,
something.
it's certainly, that was a whole lot more of a clinical environment. than
Yeah.
a ballroom, right? There's a director telling you and do it now. Like, even if he wanted to, just take a minute, take it in and get in the spot. You're live. It's national, if not worldwide TV. You're performing. It's almost like performing to a click track. You got to be ready now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right now. You had two concepts of time: now and right now. That's it. Okay. And so there's probably something to that, Ken. I mean, what did you think of Paul Simon at the start of the show?
Again, shaky in the beginning,
Yeah.
but he got stronger.
He finished real well.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And you know what was kind of nice? He opens the show with Homeward Bound, and
Yeah.
Paul ends with Once It Was a Way to Get Back Homeward. I mean, so that kind of bookended it very nice.
It was a good choice by McCartney to do that. I'm
Yeah.
glad
I'm glad he
that was
did
a good
that and not Hey Jude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of glad too.
Let It Be could have been just as good. Could have been, I mean, just, look, I mean, he could have come up roses with a lot of things. Could have done Sweet, Sweet Memories. Really,
You would.
really,
Well, maybe Only Love Remains, right? Ken?
really
Yeah.
mess with the world at large. Yeah.
Mhm. But the audience was really into it. I mean, when they would,
Oh yeah.
they showed them a couple of times, and I mean, they were on their feet. I mean, it was great. But one thing
And we are critical. I mean, like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people on, just on the net today saying like, "Wow, how great was that to see Paul McCartney close that show?"
Mhm.
And that's
That's what
that's
it
as close as they needed to be to it.
Yeah,
They
but
didn't analyze it the way we're doing.
yeah, but it was but you made a good point, Tom, about the mix. The
Yeah.
mix on that was terrible, I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, and I wondered if that was screwing him up too. I mean, I don't know
I don't know.
what he was
Yeah.
listening to, but I mean, whoever did that mix
Yeah.
should be fired because I mean, it
Yeah.
was,
Right.
he was way too upfront in the mix. You could barely hear the band at times. I mean, I
Yeah.
just thought, what is this? It's not like they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah, good point. He looked off to the side. I watched it a few times. At the beginning, he's like looking off to the side at something uncharacteristically. I didn't know
Yeah.
if maybe something was amiss. And some people said he knew he kind of screwed up a little or something at the beginning, so he kind of grimaced a little bit, like shook his head a little. And I've been looking for that slightly, kind of move.
Unless maybe it was just something in his monitors, that he couldn't hear himself for a while. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
When,
Wouldn't surprise me with that mix. Yeah.
when you brought up Paul Simon, Tom, I thought that maybe you were going to say, and I'm really glad that Paul mentioned that he
that
performed
was
with
that
George.
was nice that he mentioned George
Mhm.
Harrison. That was sweet. And did
It
you notice in one of the breaks as they were going to commercial, they were showing little highlights and stuff. They had Ringo on there with Billy Crystal, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
See, it would have been a cool story for him to tell. I would have loved for him to have told this story about him and John, watching Saturday Night Live and
Yeah.
thinking of going down there. I mean, look, there's a time and a place for everything. That was it.
Yeah, I was thinking, I wonder if he'll do that.
That was it.
I thought they might do a little something else about I forgot his name, Lorne,
Michaels.
the Lorne,
Michaels.
Lorne Michaels.
offer, the
Oh
classic
yeah,
offer.
right when he offered them, the $3,000.
And they played with that already with George, I think. And then
There
they
was a
played
half a
also-
second clip where you saw like when they were doing the Lauren thing where he was holding the check.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Right.
No, I
That
mean
was
unless you saw it and memorized it and knew it, you wouldn't have any idea what the heck
Yeah.
that was.
Right.
I was kind of hoping they'd use that as one of the classic little clips, but they didn't.
Yeah,
I got to mention because last week was so crazy,
yeah.
the Bowery events and everything. Part of me didn't know, first of all, Friday night they had a big event at Radio City Music Hall with a lot
Right.
of artists there. Is it possible Paul could have finished his show at the Bowery and then went over there and did a song? We didn't really know, even though he wasn't listed. Doesn't mean anything if Paul
I
wants.
don't think he did, only because I don't know if you watched any of the red carpet thing before the show last night. They're interviewing people as they came, and was it Fallon or somebody? They were talking about the show, about the Friday night show. Oh, it was great. Cher and Nirvana and this. They'd have mentioned them. It's my guess. So,
Right. I know.
so
Well, I
my
watched
guess
it.
is he did not.
You were just thinking that it would be cool if he did, or maybe he would have.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I don't think that happened.
Because I was betting on. Good thing I didn't bet, because I was betting that might happen. I think was
Yeah.
thinking that's going to happen. But
Yeah. Well, his show was over early enough, that's for sure. I mean, the show was
Yeah.
over at 8:30. It was an hour and 45 minutes. Again, it was 2/3 of a McCartney of a standard McCartney show.
But the show at Radio City was broadcast on Peacock, and I did get to see it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
I
gotta
was
watch
kind of
that.
hoping maybe Paul would show up, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So then that meant no matter what, he's going to be on Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, no matter what. That's correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I looked at all three set lists from the Bowery, and I said, "Oh, can I go back and just grab one from night one and swap that out with one from like I could make like the Tom favorite list. Like, I don't know, I'd probably drag Jet into the mix and lose. What would I lose? There's no, every song he did was terrific.
Come on to me.
No, I don't. Look, I liked that.
Really?
I got to say, I love "Come On to Me." I really
But
do.
Jet in a small room like that, I'm
Oh,
surprised
yeah,
the
it
joint
was
was still
small.
standing at the end.
Yeah. Oh, I bet that killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, it's a ballroom stage. It ain't that big. He had the band and the horns up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty tight up there.
And
Well,
I like my Valentine. In fact, that's
It was-
our
Look,
song.
look, he's
But,
he's gonna do that on Valentine's
Of
Day.
it's
course.
Deal
Valentine,
with
right?
it.
It's
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, so forget that.
Yeah.
he kind of alternates these days between Jet and Junior's Farm. So if he does one of those, he's not going to do the other one.
Yeah.
That's a-
Well, I said
Interesting.
no complaints either way.
Right.
Junior's Farm was just great. Was terrific.
Okay. Overall, your impression of the SNL special on Sunday night.
Well,
You
I
think?
mean, the new sketches. I like the my favorite of them all was the Weekend Update.
Yeah.
I think Colin Jost and Michael Shea are just awesome together. They really are. They're year end things where they write each other's skits.
Yeah.
They're just one funnier than the next. They're really, really good. And having Bill Murray on there, with the
Top
greatest
Ranking.
the greatest
was good.
Weekend Update hosts. That was a favorite part for me. I wish there was time. I mean, but you'd be here forever if they
Yeah.
had done, like the best skits.
Yeah.
It's 50 years worth. It's hundreds and hundreds of shows with skits. I mean, top of my head, I could rattle off 10, and people go, "What? You didn't think the Samurai Deli was good? What? Oh, gee, I forgot that one. There's so many that are just epic. I mean, a best of you'd be here forever, right?
I like Eddie Murphy. I like seeing him on there.
Yeah.
Black Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
look,
his-
they could have done a reel just of, the Jeopardy with Will Ferrell as Alex
Yeah.
and, Norm Macdonald and Sean Connery, or, that whole thing. I mean, I could watch that for an hour. I mean, it's, there was
And
so
some
much
were
good
cracking
stuff.
up. Some of them were cracking.
Oh yeah, no, that I love when they have to break character. I mean, and a lot of the skits that we've just in the last 30 seconds have mentioned. There was one just in the past year was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life. The thing with Beavis and Butthead
Oh God,
at
yeah.
the AI symposium. It was
Uh-huh.
one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life.
Yeah.
It was just great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, as someone who, I love so many different ensembles of the cast through the years, but I'll always think of the first 5 years as
Oh
the best.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me anyway.
Yeah.
I kind of wish, because I know that Jane Curtin was there and Chevy Chase was there. If they could have done something.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was wondering. I don't think Chevy Chase is very well. All right, he can't really stand or any. I don't believe now very much. He was in the audience. We saw him, but
Well, it was kind of weird, like that Bill Murray, not Bill Murray, that Dan Aykroyd didn't come.
Yeah.
yeah, I was wondering why that one.
And
I kept
again,
saying,
And
If he-
later did
you read so much. Oh, he doesn't get along with this one. They cheated him.
Yeah.
They this and that. Who knows? But something like that, I mean, it would have been nice if he had made it.
Had he been there, I would have loved to see Steve Martin with him doing the Wild and Crazy Guys,
Yeah.
the grandpa
Yeah.
edition, or
Steve
something like
Martin,
that.
Steve Martin was outrageous.
He was great.
He was awesome.
Yeah,
I
He was
love
great.
him.
The opening monologue was great.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
great.
Yeah. Did you notice that Ringo made the cut briefly?
Mhm.
Well, yeah, we saw him with Fernando's Hideaway.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
little piece
How
of
about
Ringo.
Keith showing up in the crowd?
that was-
I
Yeah,
left a
that was
scarf here in
interesting.
1998.
I know.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep was there, and
Yeah.
I
That was a
love that.
surprise.
That
That was
was
a
she was good. She
And
was fine. I mean, she was cracking up, but but she was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. There was, look, I was rolling a DVR, just in case anything cool happened, and a few cool things did happen. So it's kind of neat to see that happen. I mean, it was a once in a lifetime thing.
it was nice to see Garrett Morris at the end, even though
Yeah. That was
probably
Yeah.
can't stand, so
Yeah.
that's why he was sitting down. But
Yeah.
he's not well.
You got Lorraine Newman.
Yeah.
That was nice too. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
but it was really special what they did. And unless I'm mistaken, one person that I didn't see was Dana Carvey.
Yeah. I
Right.
don't know where he
right.
was. Yeah, because Mike Myers was there,
Yeah.
of course,
Myers
doing
was
Linda
there for
Richmond,
sure.
which was great. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was funny.
That was a good part.
That was a good bit. But yeah, where's Dana Carvey?
Yeah. I mean, he's been on the show recently because he's
Mhm.
impersonated President Biden.
That's
Mm.
right.
So,
Forgot
Hmm.
about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
but it's nice to see so many of those people and wondering who have we missed? You know,
Yeah.
I wish they had done something nice for the people that passed away and just mentioned them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Like
agree.
Gilda Radner and Phil
You
Hartman.
know what I thought was pretty edgy is that stretch that they did, like, was kind of like the "what the hell were we thinking" stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With whether it be, look, I don't even want to mention the taboo topics,
Yeah.
but man, when they got down to that thing with Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor, I was like,
Yes.
oh no,
Yep.
oh no,
That would never air
no,
today.
not
Never.
not even on a good day.
No.
But all the things, like, I love the captions, like when they showed Mike Myers when he would play Simon, the little British boy, and he's in the tub.
Oh yeah.
There's another little boy in the tub. They're like just question marks, like, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there was some good stuff in there.
Because really, if you think about it, they didn't have to include any of it. So they
No.
did show you. But
No, they made fun of themselves. Which
Yeah.
is what
Hey,
it's
we
supposed
screwed
to
up
be.
at times. Yeah.
But look, that's
was
how it
funny
goes.
stuff.
That's how it goes. Look,
Yep.
they
none of that
could have
stuff
done-
I hadn't seen before, and I thought it was funny a little bit that I saw. Some of it I'd seen, but
Yeah.
It was nice to put in there the one scene where Steve Martin danced with Gilda Radner.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I
yeah.
love that. Love that
Chokes-
skit.
chokes up Steve,
Yeah.
and he's very emotional about that whole thing. And the one sketch where it's black and white and John Belushi visiting the graves of
Yeah,
the
that was funny.
that's very ironic.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Kind
Yeah,
of
'cause he was the-
haunting.
Right when he said, "I'm the last one here," it's like he was the
Oh.
first one gone.
Yeah.
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 Oh wow.
Bizarre.
Mhm.
Bizarre. All right. Well, this was great fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm glad I could color in, kind of sort of what it was like being there. I mean, I will tell you this, it was words alone couldn't do it justice. It was really that special. A small room. He was relaxed. He was on fire. Musically, the band was cracking. Look, there was a lot of hoops and things a lot of people had to jump through. But it was really, really something special. I hope that they do something, streaming, a DVD or a CD, something to commemorate this.
Yeah. You didn't see any cameras there or anything?
Oh no, there was lots of just like the guys walking around, but not situated like one camera in the balcony, one at the back. No, a lot of roving cameras. Yeah,
Ah,
and certainly they would have the audio. I'm sure they captured.
yeah.
Even if they weren't planning on like a full blown video, certainly the audio is. I gotta believe they captured that.
Okay. Well, this has been great. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
My
Tom.
pleasure. I'll see you guys all in a few weeks, I guess, at the fest.
Don't forget, you can catch Tom on 5 different shows that he works on Sirius XM on the Beatles channel. We'll put up the link. Like
Yeah,
you
that'd be great.
Yeah,
That'll be great. I appreciate that, Ken.
absolutely.
Thank you, Tom. And
Okay.
for Kit and Joe and myself, Ken Michaels, thanks to all of you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Peace and love.
Cheers.
Peace and love.